In the last few years, Americans have been moving abroad in record numbers. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that more than 180,000 Americans moved abroad last year, and that's counting arrivals in just 15 countries. More than 760,000 people now collect U.S. Social Security abroad, roughly double the number in 2000. Here in Europe, the EU issued more than 80,000 first-time residence permits to Americans in 2024, the highest on record, and early 2025 numbers point even higher. One thing is clear, Americans are on the move. So where are they going? The map is changing. Beyond the well-known destinations like Tuscany, Provence, and Spain's Costa del Sol, Americans are discovering another side of Europe. In this video, we'll show you where Americans are moving now and why these destinations are in demand.
Hi, we're Matt and Dawn. A few years ago, we decided we didn't want to retire, but we didn't want to put off our dreams of living abroad and traveling the world either. So in 2023, we unretired. Now we live, work, and travel from the Silver Coast of Portugal. If you're ready to rewrite the rules of life after 50, hit subscribe so you never miss a new video. Well, to pull together this list, we relied on 3 sources. The first is Forbes' Best Places to Retire Abroad in 2026, published just a few weeks ago. It's an editorial list, 96 locations across 24 countries, with 12 of those countries in Europe. The second is the Rumavi Global Relocation Index, published just last month. That one scores 192 countries on 24 metrics, including healthcare, income tax treatment, and property rights for non-citizens. We'll include the links to both of these resources in the description below.
Third is our own boots-on-the-ground perspective. We visited many of these destinations over the last couple of years as part of our broader travels throughout Europe to see where Americans are moving now. For this video, we'll break this list into 4 sections: popular destinations, growing in demand, emerging interest, and under the radar. We also want to mention that this is the first video in our new series all about moving to Europe. In the coming weeks, we'll be sharing some practical tips and advice based on our own experience as well as conversations with dozens of expats. This includes everything from how to budget a move abroad, how to choose the right country, and more. If you're planning a move abroad or just dreaming about it and wondering how to turn someday into an actual plan to live in Europe, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Now, let's jump in.
Well, let's start with the popular destination, and it's probably no surprise that both lists include what we call the Big Four: France, Italy, Spain, and Portugal. These continue to be the most popular choices in Europe for Americans moving abroad.
However, where people are moving within these countries, well, that's the map that's changing. For example, Forbes dropped 2 popular destinations from its list this year: Bordeaux, France, and the Costa del Sol in Spain, citing heat waves and wildfire risk. Now, to be fair, heat waves have been a problem all over Europe this year.
Well, so where are Americans moving now? Well, let's first talk about France. Of course, according to Forbes, Paris is always a top destination, and that is for sure. But Lyon, France, which is the gastronomy capital of that country, is also very popular, as is Nice down at the Mediterranean coast. Now, we agree that these are all big draws, but we are seeing something different as well.
Now, even though Forbes did drop Bordeaux, France from its list this year, we are seeing a continued trend of expats moving to the Nouvelle-Aquitaine region. This includes places like Bordeaux and Dordogne. We recently visited and have a couple of videos that you can see on our Moving to Europe playlist. Now, we did see a lot of heat waves and wildfires this summer in this region, so it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues. 2 other areas that are gaining in popularity among expats in France are Normandy and Brittany.
So let's now talk about Italy. Now, this was surprising to us because, the headlines are all talking about southern Italy, Puglia in Sicily, and the €1 homes, and the 7% tax rate for retirees.
But many Americans are actually moving further north. Forbes cited Bologna in the Emilia-Romagna region and the Lombardy region, which includes Milan and Lake Como, as top spots, as well as the Marche region. So even though places like Florence and Tuscany are always going to be a big draw, as heat waves continue in the southern parts of Europe, we are seeing this trend north. We should probably say that moving north doesn't mean that you'll escape heat waves. Northern Italy had plenty of those this summer as well, but we are seeing a trend north for many expats.
Looking at Spain, as we said, Forbes dropped the Costa del Sol from its list this year. Now, it does include Seville to the south and, of course, popular Barcelona. But now it also includes Bilbao in the north and the Spanish Basque Country. Now, anecdotally, we are seeing quite a move to the north of Spain, both from expats who are moving or Americans who are moving to Spain initially, but also for people who initially located in Valencia or the Costa del Sol who are, they're moving to the north now. Earlier this year, we did a series on Valencia, Costa del Sol, and the Costa Blanca. And you can see those videos on our Moving to Europe playlist.
Now, we should probably jump in here and say, what is the Costa del Sol? This is the area around Malaga. And again, we do have a video about this. And we are talking a lot about summer heat waves, partly because it's the middle of August and heat waves have been the headline all summer long. It is worth mentioning that a lot of people love living in the south area. Heat waves don't happen year round, of course, and it's beautiful weather for much of the year. So there is a trade-off, just something to be aware of. Now, when we did our series in Spain, we heard from so many of you, both expats and the Spanish people, that the northern regions like Asturias, Galicia, Basque, and Cantabria, my apologies for that pronunciation, are stunning. And we have spent a lot of time in Basque Country, and we can tell you absolutely that's true. We've driven through northern Spain, and we can definitely see the draw to these areas. And we should also say that although there is a trend north in many of these countries, including Spain, there are plenty of people who love living in the south and can't imagine living anywhere else. If that's you living in southern Spain, we would love to hear from you in the comments why you love it. We should also probably mention that the Canary Islands also made Forbes' list for Spain.
Well, in our home country, in Portugal, the Forbes list continues to list the three most popular areas within Portugal: Lisbon, Porto, and the Algarve. And they do remain popular destinations, but we are seeing something different on the ground. We're actually seeing quite a big interest in an area called the Silver Coast, which is the area where we live. We have a Best Places to Live on the Silver Coast video, and we also did a series last year, which you can see in our Moving to Portugal playlist. Now we're seeing more and more people move actually to the north of Porto, to places like Braga and Guimarães and Viana do Castelo. And we did a series on those earlier this year as well.
It's also worth mentioning that there is a lot of development along the Alentejo coast. Now, this is the coastline that is south of Lisbon, between Lisbon and the Algarve. And there's a lot of development around places like Comporta. There's a lot of headlines right now about investment and celebrities and even royalty moving in. So that's another area that we're seeing develop. We also want to mention that in the Global Relocation Index, Portugal was the only Western European country to rank top 5 for retirees and digital nomads, and the only Western European country to rank top 5 for families. So those are some of the more traditionally popular countries, and they are still very popular. But where are we seeing growing demand?
So these are countries that a lot of Americans have heard about, of course, but in terms of relocation, it's become much more popular recently. And the big story this year is Greece. Now, Greece's incentives to attract foreigners are not new. It offers a 7% flat tax on foreign pension income, and it has since 2020. And it launched its Golden Visa in 2013 and updated it in 2024. So why is Greece experiencing increased demand from expats now?
Well, it isn't really about what Greece started doing in the last year or two. It's really about what other countries have stopped doing. Both Portugal and Spain have ended their Golden Visa by property investment programs, which means that Greece is one of the last Mediterranean countries in Europe to offer this program. Now, they have banned turning those properties into short-term rentals to avoid facing some of the problems that we saw in Spain and Portugal. But there's another reason why Greece is gaining in popularity, and that's because the economy in Greece has strengthened significantly over the last 10 years.
Now, there is another country that is also seeing growing demand. Now, Forbes doesn't talk about this, but the Global Relocation Index, of course, does. And we have seen the population of Americans grow by 31% over the last 5 years. And that country is the Netherlands.
Now, I feel like we always get a lot of pushback whenever we mention the Netherlands, but the stats are there. Americans are moving to the Netherlands in increased numbers, and one of the reasons for that is an old treaty that dates back to the 1950s between the Netherlands and the U.S. called DAFT, or the Dutch-American Friendship Treaty. Basically, how it works is that you can move to the Netherlands as an American, start a business with as little as 4,500 euros, and gain residency.
In fact, you could leave the U.S. tomorrow, show up at the Netherlands, file paperwork that day, and you would have an answer in 6 to 8 weeks, which therefore grants you residency if it's a positive answer. Now, this is why it ranks very highly in the Global Relocation Index, and in fact, it ranks in the top 10 for entrepreneurship. Now, later in this video, we're going to talk about the one country that ranks at the top for entrepreneurship.
And we should say that most people do get an answer in 6 to 8 weeks. There are some instances where it does take longer, so that's definitely not a guaranteed thing, more of a trend line. And we also want to say that the reason that DAFT has become more popular among Americans is the shift to remote work that really happened during COVID. So even though this is a program that's been around since the 1950s, there's just more American entrepreneurs and workers who are able to take advantage of this now. There is a lot to know about DAFT before you pack your bags, but fortunately we have an entire video interview with an expert who breaks it all down for you, and you can watch that video here.
Now, this is a list of some countries that aren't really well known or well considered by Americans, but that is changing quickly. The first one is one that we visited last year and loved, and that's Slovenia. This ranked high on both the Forbes list and the Global Relocation Index. Slovenia introduced its digital nomad visa last year.
Now, we love Slovenia, as Matt said, and we are not at all surprised to see this on both lists. Now, we mentioned earlier that the trend is expats moving north, and Slovenia is a country that has a lot going for it. It's safe and clean, it's well located. You can be in Austria, Italy, Croatia, and Hungary within a couple of hours. It is a country with a strong economy, and more Americans are discovering it, both as a place to travel and to live. Now, we did a whole video about our time in Slovenia and how it stacks up as an expat destination. You can watch that video here. Now, the next two we think are wildly misunderstood.
And the first is Albania. Now, this was the cover story for the Forbes article, and Albania gets a lot of headlines about being the next expat destination. One reason in particular is that Albania offers something unique. As an American, you can live there for up to 1 year without a visa. The country offers a lower cost of living as well as beautiful beaches, and everyone loves to talk about Albania.
But we think the real story is another country that ended up on the Forbes list, and that is Montenegro. Now, both Albania and Montenegro are on track to potentially become part of the EU. But after visiting Montenegro last year, we think this is the bigger story for a few reasons.
Montenegro is on track to join the EU sooner. They are further along in their infrastructure, they're better connected, and they're just over the border from Croatia with ferry service back and forth. There is a lot of investment going into the country. It is beautiful and it is affordable.
But don't just take our word for it. The Global Relocation Index ranks Slovenia and Montenegro much higher than Albania. This is based on metrics like digital infrastructure, safety, and climate risk, which is why it's important to look past the headlines to actual data when deciding where to build your next chapter. Now, we have a whole video about Montenegro that you can watch here, and that includes why Montenegro is also a great option if you want to start a business in Europe.
Now, these under-the-radar countries didn't make it on the Forbes list, and honestly, it's not like Americans are rushing to move there or relocate there, but these did rank high on the Global Relocation Index. In fact, one top of the list for a country to relocate to, and that country is Estonia.
Now, we're not surprised by this. We've been talking about Estonia for a while, and to be fair, this is not lying on the beach as a retiree kind of country or weather. In fact, Estonia ranks quite low for climate and comfort with long, dark, cold winters. Despite this, it continues to top expat lists, and that's for a few reasons. First, it's one of the most digitally advanced countries in Europe. It's also the EU's most startup-friendly country, home to companies like Skype, Wise, and Bolt. It's safe, affordable, and green.
In the Global Relocation Index, Estonia ranks in the top 5 for families, for entrepreneurs, and for tax friendliness. In fact, it's the best rated country for entrepreneurship in Europe. Some other European countries mentioned on the Global Relocation Index are Lithuania, which cracked the top 10, Bulgaria, which ranked number 14 for tax friendliness, as well as Romania and Poland, both of whom scored well.
So those are some of the destinations in Europe that Americans are moving to now. But we'd love to hear your take. Where would you move in Europe? Or if you've already made the move, we'd love to hear where you chose and why. Tell us in the comments below.
And if you want to do a deep dive in many of these locations that we mentioned in this video, check out our Moving to Europe playlist. Thanks for watching.